What's up, everybody? This is BC. If you are new to my channel, my name is Bryan Casella. I'm a realtor here in Southern California. I run my own team. I have my own office, and I've been in the business a little bit over 4 years. And I wanted to make this video not only for newer agents coming in, or maybe agents who still don't understand because they're hard-headed, or for the consumer who has no idea. I wanted to make a clear distinction between what a listing agent is and a buyer's agent, because I still see a lot of complaining in the realtor world every once in a while as well from the outside, the consumer, because they don't know or have a true understanding. They feel like one of them isn't necessary or whatever it is. I just want to clear that. I want to break it down. I and my team are listing agents. I've been taught to be listing agents, so some people may say I'm biased, right? But I'm just going to give you the truth and the facts as simply as possible, so whether you're an agent or a consumer, you can understand. Okay, so let's get down to the nitty gritty. What is the difference between a listing agent and a buyer's agent? A listing agent is the agent who represents and is contracted by the seller of the house, the owner of the home. So this home that I'm in, if I decide to sell it, I sign a contract with an agent, right? And then he's the one who puts the sign in the front yard and represents the seller. He stipulates all the price, the total commission, how much commission later on he's going to offer the buyer's agent who brings the buyer, etc., etc. You can picture the listing agent as the captain of the ship, basically, okay? Now the buyer's agent is the agent who represents the individual or couple or whoever it is who's going to purchase the home. So when they send in an offer and we go under contract, it's the listing agent who represents the seller, buyer's agent who represents the buyer. I want to make this video because that still, to a lot of people, isn't clear. You don't get another license to be a listing agent or a buyer's agent, you just pick. Typically, most agents, when they come into the business, a lot of brokers and people steer them towards being a buyer's agent because it's easier. You know, a buyer wants to buy a house, it's a lot easier to talk to them. You just basically run around with them, looking at homes, you find them homes on the MLS, you talk to them, you set up showings. It's a lot easier than being a listing agent. This is the first myth that I want to destroy, is people will try to say that being a buyer's agent is more work than a listing, right? Being a listing agent. Absolutely not. It's a different type of work, right? And me personally, I find door knocking, calling, marketing, and generating leads, especially if you're doing it like we are, which is active marketing, like we're actually getting out there and hustling, I find that work to be much more strenuous and difficult than, you know, showing a buyer homes. Yeah, is that time consuming? Absolutely, right? Am I saying I'm better than you? No, it's a different type of work. You never hear me complain. I just see a lot of people who work with buyers complain. Especially, let's say if I'm the listing agent and I take the listing at 6%, they will complain that I will keep 3.5% for myself and my team and only give out 2.5%, which, by the way, in California is standard and it varies state by state. But like I mentioned in the beginning, the listing agent brought that listing to the market, right? That's a different skill set. It takes skill and ability, time and patience to contact the seller, right? And a lot of times people nowadays, especially, are very closed off. I have to be able to establish rapport with them, make them comfortable, get them to give me the information, express to me that they're interested in selling, meet with them now, and in most cases compete with other agents, get them to sign with me, which is one battle, and the second battle is actually getting them to price it fairly at market value. Okay? That is an entirely different and much more difficult skill set to have than just working with a buyer. Right? Now, working with a buyer, at times objections come up. It's a little bit tougher sometimes to get them to write an offer, but that, especially from my point of view, is a lot easier than working with the seller, right? Because it's not only getting them to work with you, but actually put the home at a price that's fair. And we know, right, and if you're a consumer watching this and you don't, about more than 2/3 of the homes that go on the market will require price reductions, meaning the realtor who represented them was not strong enough in their conviction to get them to price it correctly, right? Which is a different battle. Now, I want to talk something real quick about this misconception that the listing agent isn't needed, okay? From homeowners. They say, oh, you know, we can just, you know, go with the buyer's agent. I just want to go with people who have buyers. Look, realtors aren't running around with buyers. Some realtors might have a few buyers that they've generated, but no one stopped and thought about this. Me putting a listing on the market, I'm creating inventory. I'm creating the product that the buyer wants. Without listings, you have no buyers. Let's analyze this. What would happen back in the days? Most people would be driving around, right? They would either look in the local newspaper or drive around and see a sign in the yard and call on it, and that would generate their interest to buy. They would talk to an agent, get qualified, and all that would start in most cases. And now, where do people look? Online. Who provides the listings online? The listing agents. I got the listing and put it online. People aren't just out of nowhere going online and saying, I want to buy a house. Some people will. I'll give you that, right? But I think they said 87 or 88% of home buyers, their search starts online. But without me, hello, the listing agent, putting the house on the market, right? Putting good pictures, putting it at a fair price, the buyer isn't generated. So I want to squash that myth that the listing agent isn't necessary, right? And especially when you're talking about the skill set. Anybody can just list a home, but it takes a very, very fine-tuned skill set to convince people to put their home on the market, right, at the right time. Because if I'm noticing that the person isn't really motivated, or they're not realistic, or right now isn't the time, I'm going to turn them away and say, no, don't put your home on the market. That's not going to stop the next bozo realtor from coming in and just putting it up for sale because they want their face out in a commission, but that's a separate conversation. But number two is getting them to price it fairly. For the market to move, for the buyer to buy and the seller to sell, the property has to be priced correctly at fair market value. And I mentioned it earlier, a lot of realtors don't have the conviction or skill to get somebody to price it correctly. Because by you putting a listing overpriced, you're frustrating the buyer, you're frustrating the agent, you're frustrating the seller, and you're doing everybody a disservice, okay? So again, buyer's agent works with the buyer, listing agent works with the seller. We are more listing centric in my business. That's why I'm talking more about the listing side. But I want people to be absolutely clear that both are necessary. I need a buyer's agent to sell my property, which 90% of the time or more, an outside agent happens to have that buyer, right? And additionally, the listing agent is very, very vital. I'm not going to sit here and make an argument which one is better. That's irrelevant. But the listing agent is just as necessary as the buyer's agent. I want to make that very clear. Additionally, let's look at something like an open house. I think statistically 1 to 2% of people who walk into an open house as somebody who's looking to buy will actually buy that house, right? So they're going to end up buying another house. But why am I saying that? Well, without the listing, there's no open house. So even if that person came off the street and suddenly expressed interest in buying, without me listing that home and putting it for sale, it's not going to happen. So let's say they came off the street or with an agent, right? You see what I'm saying here? I want you guys to understand that there's a harmony here. It's not like, oh, I just want to go with the buyer's agent and I don't need a listing agent, or I just want to go with the listing agent. Now, I could generate my own buyers, right? So if we're talking from an agent standpoint, me having a listing means I have the opportunity to now generate a buyer off the online ad and the sign in the front yard. They can call me. So there's more opportunity for an agent to be a listing agent. But I just wanted to discuss this briefly, especially for the consumer, but mainly also for the agents. I'm still seeing a lot of videos on YouTube and a lot of people complaining from the buyer side, trying to put the magnifying glass on us as listing agents when we're actually doing everybody a good service here, right? And we're just as necessary as you as the buyer's agent, okay? Here's what I invite you all to do. I want you to comment below whether you focus more on listings or buyers, right? If you have any other concerns or questions or comments regarding this situation, I want you to comment below. If you're a consumer watching this, I want you to comment below and say what your thoughts were before watching this video and what they are now, because I want to clear the air here. I know that my channel is getting a lot more traction now and I get more views. So I know for real estate, especially for the consumer and agents, I'm an authority figure, and a lot of the information that I give will be viewed by a lot of people who are looking for real estate specific stuff. So I want to make sure this video spreads. So share this video, make sure you put it on Facebook, put it everywhere, just so people can see, mainly for the consumer, right? This is very educational for the consumer. I didn't go over anything crazy, but I made it pretty clear in a couple minutes that the listing agent and the buyer's agent are both necessary, right? A lot of people out there who are buying are just talking to the listing agent because then they think they can get a better deal, which isn't always the case, right? But you have to remember that the listing, the product, right? We're talking about the product in real estate. The product is the listing. Without the product, there's no demand and it creates no buyer. So we're very pivotal in the process. But then again, people are going to make the argument, what came first, the chicken or the egg, and they're going to go back and forth. Again, I'm not making an argument to see who's better. I want to make that very clear because a lot of people know that I'm on the listing side and they feel that I'm biased. All I'm saying is you need both components, both pieces to the puzzle. I just want to make that clear because especially the consumer. For the consumer, they think that just the buyer's agent is necessary because they have the buyers. Newsflash, ladies and gentlemen, we don't run around with buyers. Some people have buyers. They have a database of people who may be buyers, but we don't just run around with buyers and then you shop like that. Because a lot of people will say, well, I only want to work with an agent who has a buyer. That's an incorrect way of thinking. You want to work with the agent who has the best negotiation skills and can best strategize and put your home in the best position to sell for the most money, and here's the kicker, to the best buyer, because that's who you want. You don't just want buyers, you want the best buyer. Okay, so that's it for this one. Make sure you guys like the video. Again, share it, comment below what your thoughts are, which side of the fence you fall on, whether you're a buyer's agent or more of a listing agent. I'm curious to hear where you're from and what you're doing. And lastly, do not forget to subscribe to the channel. I will see you on the next video.